Bring me the real architect. Mr. Langford's voice boomed across the sleek glass boardroom. His company had just signed a multi-million-dollar deal, and today was the big reveal of the new headquarters design. A young intern nervously pointed to the tall man in a tailored suit. "This is our senior." No, the CEO cut him off. "The person who drew these plans, the one with the vision. I want him here now." A hush fell over the room. Moments later, the door creaked open, and in stepped James Carter, the janitor. His faded coveralls were dusted with plaster, and his hands were calloused. Every executive in the room exchanged confused glances. James cleared his throat. "I know I'm not what you expected. I mopped the floors here, but I also studied architecture before life got in the way." He explained how he'd stayed late after shifts, sketching ideas for fun, until one night the lead architect spotted his drawings in the trash and passed them up the chain. Mr. Langford leaned forward. "So you're telling me these brilliant designs are yours?" James nodded quietly. The CEO smiled slowly. "Then you're exactly who I wanted to meet." For the first time in his life, James felt like more than a job on his uniform. And in that moment, every head in the room realized they'd just met the man who'd change not only the company's skyline, but their perception of talent forever. For a moment, no one spoke. The executives shifted in their leather chairs, clearly unsure how to respond. James stood there, clutching his folder of hand-drawn sketches, his heart pounding. "I didn't mean to overstep," he said softly. "I just love designing, even if no one ever saw it." Mr. Langford gestured for him to step forward. "James, sit. Show us what you've got." The janitor hesitated, not from fear, but from years of being told his role in life was to clean up after others, not to create. Slowly, he spread his sketches across the glossy table. It was like someone had opened a window in a stale room. The designs weren't just buildings. They were stories in steel and glass, light and shadow. One of the senior architects leaned in, eyebrows raised. These solve problems we've been wrestling with for months." James shrugged. "Sometimes you see things differently when you're the one sweeping the corners." A quiet laugh rippled through the room. Not mocking, but warm. The tension eased. Mr. Langford studied the sketches for a long moment before looking up. "You know what's rare, James? Talent that isn't just learned, but lived. You've been walking through these hallways, seeing possibilities the rest of us missed." James' throat tightened. No one had ever spoken to him like that before. Then the CEO did something unexpected. He slid a contract across the table. "How would you feel about joining our design team officially?" James blinked. In the span of minutes, his life had shifted from mopping floors to possibly shaping the city skyline. And for the first time, he realized maybe dreams didn't expire. They just waited for the right moment to be heard. James stared at the contract in front of him. His hands, rough from years of labor, hovered above it as if it were made of glass. I'm not sure I belong here," he admitted, glancing at the polished executives around the table. "I'm just a janitor." Mr. Langford's voice was steady. "You were a janitor, but your ideas? They're the work of an architect." One of the senior partners, a man in an expensive gray suit, leaned back. "Sir, with all due respect, architecture isn't just sketches. It's years of formal training. Projects like this carry risk." James didn't flinch. "I know. I studied architecture for 2 years before I had to drop out to take care of my mother. I couldn't finish my degree, but I never stopped learning. Every break, every evening I read, I sketched, I practiced." The room fell silent. Mr. Langford leaned forward. "James, you've already proven yourself. The rest is just paper. If you want this, I'll make sure you get the support you need, training, mentorship, whatever it takes." James' heart pounded. It wasn't just about the job. It was about stepping into a world that had once shut its doors on him. Finally, he reached for the pen. His signature looked small compared to the bold lines of the CEO's, but to James, it was the biggest thing he'd ever written. When he looked up, he caught a glimpse of something in Mr. Langford's expression: pride. And for the first time, James allowed himself to believe he could build more than just buildings. He could build a future. James' first day on the design team felt like stepping into another world. The open studio was a maze of drafting tables, 3D models, and walls covered in blueprints. Everyone moved with purpose, pencils scratching, voices murmuring over measurements. Some designers greeted him warmly, but others kept their distance. He caught a few skeptical glances, the kind that said, "What's the janitor doing here?" Instead of shrinking back, James did what he'd always done. He worked harder than anyone else. He arrived before sunrise, stayed past closing, and asked questions without shame. When a junior architect explained a technical concept, he listened like it was gold. When he didn't understand something, he'd stay up late watching tutorials and sketching until he did. One afternoon, a crisis hit. A key structural flaw had been discovered in the planned headquarters design. Weeks of work were on the line. The room buzzed with stress as engineers and architects argued. James quietly studied the plans, his eyes tracing the angles. Then, almost without thinking, he stepped forward. "What if," he said slowly, "we shift the load-bearing columns here and here? It would not only fix the flaw, but open up space for that green courtyard Mr. Langford wanted." The room went still. Then, the head engineer leaned over the plans. That would work. From that day forward, James was no longer the janitor on the design team. He was James Carter, problem solver. And with each challenge he overcame, he started to believe that he wasn't just surviving in this new world. He was earning his place in it. Months passed, and James' role on the team grew. He wasn't just fixing mistakes anymore. He was leading design discussions, presenting ideas directly to Mr. Langford, and inspiring younger interns who saw in him proof that talent could come from anywhere. But the real test came during the final presentation of a new headquarters designed to the city council. The meeting room was packed. Council members, investors, and reporters filled every seat. The lead architect had just started speaking when a councilwoman interrupted. "These designs are beautiful," she said, "but they're too costly. We can't approve this without a major budget cut." The air grew heavy. Months of work were about to crumble. James felt the old fear rise, the voice that told him to stay quiet, to let the real professionals handle it. But then he remembered something his mother used to tell him. "If you see a way forward, speak it." He stood. "If we adjust the outer facade materials and reconfigure the rooftop garden, we can save nearly 15% without losing the integrity of the design." The councilwoman frowned. "And you are?" James smiled. "I'm the architect who mops floors." The room chuckled, but the numbers didn't lie. Within minutes, the council approved the project. Reporters swarmed him afterward, asking about his journey. James didn't talk about the obstacles, the long nights, or the prejudice. He talked about opportunity and the importance of leaders who look past titles and uniforms to see potential. As he left the building that night, Mr. Langford clapped a hand on his shoulder. "You didn't just save the project, James. You showed everyone here what real talent looks like."